Hi students, and welcome to our first narrated uh, PowerPoint presentation, starting with chapter 12 and going up to chapter 18. I will be posting these pretty frequently, so please carve out time in your schedule to listen in and understand what we're talking about. So this chapter is all about what we mean by the word media. Because in your world, it's usually social media, but there's a lot of different media out there. We're going to talk about that throughout this chapter 12. So media refers to the way messages are delivered to the audiences, back to companies, and among audience members. And I have a little diagram here. But media are the channel step in the communication model, okay? So you see here in the middle, that gray arrow is getting the message and then getting feedback coming back. It conveys the message to the customer, depending on what media you decide to use for your project. So what do we mean by media? Messages move through channels of communication. Media delivers that message, okay? In traditional mass media, it used to be very one-way processing to the receiver. We just received the messages and that was it. But today, it's way more interactive, as you know, from the different platforms that you use. They offer opportunities for dialogue and a two-way conversation, which I personally think is better. It certainly keeps everybody on their toes, as they say, and making sure that their products or services are actually satisfying the customer. And the customer gets engaged and connects with their brands. So how does the integrated marketing, communication, and media work together? So media are considered contact points in that they connect a brand with their audience, they touch us with emotions, and they engage us. This is exactly what you're supposed to be doing for your project. You're going to connect with your audience, FitCrunch, and you're going to do it on some emotional level and engage us in some way. Delivery is the first step in connecting. So delivery opens the door to touching a customer in a meaningful way. So how are you going to deliver that message and connect with your audience? IMC plans are multi-platform, multi-channel, and multi-targeted. So as you know, there's been a lot of changes in the media, not a ton since you've been in existence, but certainly since I've been in existence. Media spending is moving away from traditional outlets. Traditional outlets include television, magazine, newspaper, to vehicles that provide us with more accountability as well as feedback. So where is money being spent? It's being spent on influencers, storytelling, and videos. Together, TV and internet advertising will be nearly 60% of total global ad revenue throughout the early 2020s. So have you decided on the media outlet that you're going to go with? I've talked to some of the groups and they are choosing two as required. And you can use this information if you decide to go, say, Facebook and television for baby boomers. So the actual ad will be different, but only tweaked for each media you decide to use. So think about a message that's going to work in both areas of media that you choose. I don't want things to be different. I want it to be the same message, just tweaked a little bit for that media. So this is an interesting example of how media has changed. Now I don't have 2020 stats up here, but the whole idea here is to give you an idea of how things have changed over the years. And as you can see, in 2018, television has shrunk, internet has gotten larger, mobile, of course, has grown from 10% in 2015 up to 23%, and I'm sure it's more now, 2 years later. Newspaper continues to shrink. Magazines shrinking slightly. Radio seems to stay steady, and outdoor, same thing. Cinemas, about the same as well. So the big differences obviously are internet, mobile, and TV. So this is a great example of how social media landscape, how much that's changing as well. And I love to see these statistics because everyone says Facebook is dead, and yet look at how many users are up here. Okay, WhatsApp is next, Messenger gaining ground, WeChat, which I've never even heard of, Instagram, I would expect that to be higher, but this is monthly active users of selected social networks and messaging services worldwide. So it's a variety of target audiences. Twitter's quite low. TikTok's moving its way up. So this is the up and coming social media landscape. Okay, media types and terms. So let's kind of understand how all this works. The plural noun to media, the plural noun is media, is a term for all types of print, broadcast, out-of-home advertising, and internet communication. So it's just called media. The singular noun is called medium. So what medium are you using refers to each type. So the medium for Facebook, the medium for radio, the medium for magazine. A media vehicle is a specific TV program, newspaper, magazine ad, Instagram post, Facebook post. When a company buys media, it's really buying access to a particular audience. So if I'm buying radio time, I'm getting access to a particular audience, maybe on satellite or Pandora. I'm going after a specific audience. And we know from doing our surveys that each age group that we do has a different media platform that they listen to or view more. And that's what we're talking, access to a particular audience. Media types and terms, the size and profile of an audience. So mass media means the channels through which messages are sent to large, diverse audiences. Broadcast media casts their audio and visual signals broadly to reach masses. Anytime we use the word masses, it's clearly not something that is tailored to a specific audience. It's just going out to the masses. Niche media are communication channels through which messages are sent to niche segments. Okay, so the example I'm using here is marketing to moms. So this is a website called BSM Media, and they specifically target moms and use influencers to do that. Moms in all different age groups, and companies hire BSM Media to get the word out about their products. Let me see if I can bring this up, open this up for us. If I cannot, you can do it on your own. Okay, it looks like it's not letting me. Open this up on your own and check it out. Actually, they hire our interns. So if you find this company of interest, they are hiring interns for the fall, I believe. So measured media is the ability to analyze the cost of a media buy relative to the size of its audience. So how much money are we spending to get access to a specific quantity of an audience? So let's get into more of what I mean here. Targeted and interactive conduits refers to the way media transmits messages. So addressable media, we're aware of that. That's when mail comes with our names on it. Maybe we go on Amazon and it says, "Welcome back, Eileen." Telephone, robocalls, they send brand messages to a specific address. Interactive media is online, social, and mobile media, allowing conversations between companies and customers. So the whole idea here is to be more targeted more interactive, and more tailored to the customer. We like that as as consumers. So media types and terms. Things you need to understand in the media business, that there is paid media. Paid media as compared to owned and earned is traditional measured media such as print, broadcast, considered clutter and it lacks credibility, okay? Ad placements are bought by the company or the organization to be placed in a particular magazine, to be placed in radio, to be placed on television. So that's paid media. It's traditional media that we pay out in advertising. And the examples I give you are right here, print, broadcast, place-based, online. And you can see how in this diagram here that we're going to get into more, that they all do converge together and overlap. Okay, let's get to the next slide. Owned media are channels controlled by the organization and that carry branded content. So for example, FAU will put out their owned media on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and it includes things like blogs, stories, events, things like that are owned, brochures, things of that nature, their website, of course, their Twitter feed. So think about that. It's all owned by FAU and we have control over it. Okay, the next area is called earned media. And they're channels where brand communication is spread by outsiders. And what I mean by that is that stories are carried where the brand may be mentioned, but it doesn't mean you have control of when, where, and how. Sometimes it's negative. Okay, so what I mean here by earned media is publicity, word of mouth, social media, interest sharing. So that means when you like something on Facebook or you want to promote it on Instagram to a friend, you can share a story about a product. That is called earned media. It means that you're like a third party talking positively or negatively about the product. Okay, the evolution of media forms and functions. So it's interesting to see how we have completely evolved from the print era of newspapers and magazines into broadcasting, that's radio and TV, into the digital area with internet, cable, and satellite. And now, of course, we're in the social media era of publishers, bloggers, and social networks. And I do have a YouTube video down here that kind of gives you a like a beginning to end of where we are with regard to media and the different forms of it. So open that up and take a look at it. Interesting. Okay, a former ad executive, Bruce Bendinger, observed something about the evolution of the media. So this observation about the evolution of advertising talks about the printing press turning us into readers, the Xerox turning us into publishers, TV turned us into viewers, and the internet turned us into broadcasters. So the first website started in 1991, okay? Facebook 2003, Twitter 2006, and in contrast, newspapers were from the 1700s, radios from the late 1800s, and TV existed in the 40s and 50s is when it started. So you can see that the other media, in contrast, started a long time ago, and then boom, the internet hit in the early 90s, and everything has changed since then. So basically, your entire life, the internet continues to evolve, and social media continues to build. So a lot has happened in a short period of time in comparison to newspaper, radio, and TV, is the point of this observation. So in the evolution of media forms and functions, a lot of companies need to update themselves, if you will. So media has had to adjust to a new circumstance. In other words, people aren't buying newspapers or magazines as much anymore. So new media has to take on new roles and characteristics, and they're doing things differently now. A more serious shift is occurring in the 21st century as computers and internet begin to personalize our media, as I mentioned before, by giving us lists of ideas of what we should be buying. If you like this, you'll probably like this. That's a lot on Amazon. Suggestive selling, personalizing with our names on it. So personal selling is the only medium that's more interactive and multidimensional than the internet. But what do we know? It's very expensive. So this figure shows how digital media overlaps both broadcast and print and brings them together. Traditional media, such as print and broadcasting, are adding online formats, as you know, so that they can keep up with the digital world. They're streaming video and things like this. So more on the evolution. It's called a convergence. So new media tends to launch themselves by adapting the forms of media that preceded them. So older media also adapts by adopting some of the advances of new media. So this convergence happens. Nearly every media vehicle now has one or more websites, and for instance, I have the Forbes Daily Dozen here, okay? Forbes magazine. People aren't just picking up a magazine anymore, so why not offer something like the Forbes Daily Dozen, which I get every morning, that basically gives you the highlights of what's going on digitally. So newspapers, the same thing. They have their own website. You want to see what's going on, you can pick up a physical paper, but you can also go online to find everything you need to know as well. The evolution of media forms and functions. So the key media players. So you have media brokers, you have media salespeople. And these people specifically work and buy media for an ad agency, or they're their own business. So they might be hired out by an ad agency as a resource. So media salespeople, they're also known as media reps. They work for vehicles such as magazines or TV stations, and their media conglomerates offer cross-media and multi-channel integrated deals so that you can buy something that crosses a bunch of different channels instead of just buying just in print or just online or just on radio broadcast. You can do a buy across all different areas so that you're hitting all different platforms and, as of course, your target audience. So media brokers are people and companies that sell this space and time for a variety of media, and they make an entire buy with one order. So you go to these media brokers, they have relationships, they know the best way to tap into your audience and the best resources. And they also let you know where your best return on your investment is, depending on your budget. So you have media planners, and they determine the best way to deliver your message. And media researchers, they are the ones that go and find out which media is your audience viewing, and they look at the audience measurement, media costs, things like that. Media planners develop a strategic decision outlined in the media plan, where and when to advertise and the types of media to use. It's all spread out for you. If you are going to make a media buy as FitCrunch, you would go to this agency and tell them what you want, and they would basically give you a calendar of when and where your advertisements would be showing. This is an example of something like that. So they might break it down into video, meaning television, radio. They could go out of home. We talked a lot about billboards, buses, benches, things like that. And then you want to go into things like social media and digital displays. So there's a variety of areas that they go through each month and decide what's the best time and place to advertise your product. And it all depends on the type of product you're advertising. If it's seasonal, obviously you're going to do it at different times of the year. If it's a day part kind of a ad buy, it means if I sell breakfast, I want to promote the product during the morning hours versus evening when I wouldn't be hitting my audience as much. Okay, so the evolution of media forms and functions continued. So media buyers implement the media plan by contracting for time and space based on the media planner's work. Media buying companies specialize in research, planning, and buying. So when you go with the company, you feel confident that they're tapping into the resources you need to get in front of your audience. They may be part of an agency, as I mentioned, or that they could work on their own. And I have a great example here for Kettle Brand chips. This is a company, a media buying company called Duncan and Shannon. I don't know. I don't think I can. I'm going to see if I can play it. I don't think that I can. I don't think they let me play it off this when I'm recording. Please open this up and take a look at it. I actually had chips I was going to bring into the class, but you know, the virus and everything kind of got in the way of bringing those samples in to really get into this example. But it really goes through all the different areas and platforms, media areas, to get into your audience's head. So you're showing up in the right time, in the right place to intercept your audience so that they think about Kettle Brand chips the next time they go and purchase. So take a look at that. It's really cool. It'll give you a really good example of what that looks like. Okay, what are the fundamentals of media strategy? The challenge is to manage all available media opportunities, yet maximize budgets, because what happens is the largest single cost in the marketing communication budget is the media. Okay, all decision making comes from the media plan. The goal is to maximize your message impact and minimize the cost and find a good blend here. So obviously this hasn't been changed, but what I want to say here is, what is your blend? Not for Scrub Daddy, that's what we did last semester, but for FitCrunch. So think about, what is your blend of media that you're going to use? I know you're supposed to use two mediums. So if it's Facebook and say print, you know, that's going to be your blend. If we were doing more and it was a longer semester, we would also ask you to let us know about other areas you're going to advertise FitCrunch, so that it all interconnects and there's synergy in an integrated marketing communication plan. But I'm only asking you to do two. And when I ask you to do these two advertisements, you are physically showing me a post on Facebook or a storyboard for a YouTube video, or an actual YouTube video, or an actual radio ad script with the voiceovers, how it's going to sound, and all of the sound effects. You can also do your own radio ad and do a link for that. I want you to get creative. So back to media mix. The way various types of media are strategically combined, they create a special kind of impact for the consumer. So multi-platform describes multi-channel and multi-marketing communication areas. So you can get into a lot of different things we're going to talk about. There's social media, there's branded entertainment, there's video games, you can place your product on a TV show. There's also customer service. So this just gives you a kind of a parallel between media planning and message planning and buying. So on the left side here, we have you target your media, okay, and research. You have certain objectives. You have a media mix selection, and then you schedule and budget. Media buying, there's media tactics and monitoring, of course. So you always want to make sure that you're getting the reaction that you want from your message, and that you evaluate your message. And that is part of your paper, that you need to do an evaluation in terms of how are we going to know if it's successful. So on the other side, the message planning, which is what you're also doing, is the creative brief. You have message objectives. You're coming up with that big idea that's going to attract your audience. The message execution starts with copywriting, that's the words, designing it to capture and engage your customer. Adaptation of the IMC areas and international campaigns, that is obviously if you're going global with your campaign. And then you're going to evaluate that message as well, just as I had said before. There's copy testing, there's objectives and effects, performance results. These are all the things that are going to add up to whether or not your campaign was successful. Okay, key strategic media concepts, targets and audiences. The goal is to match the advertiser's target audience with the audience of a particular medium. Clearly, you found this information out because you did surveys. We could have guessed, we could have used secondary research, and we are, but we're using primary research also. And you're going to refer to that all the time during your paper as to why you chose the medium that you chose. Traditionalists, for instance, grew up with newspapers, magazines, and radio, whereas boomers now in their mid to upper 50s and beyond grew up with television. So obviously television is going to be more attractive to, say, boomers than, say, Gen Zers. Gen Xers also grew up with tape recorders, video games, VCRs, and cable TV. Gen Yers or millennials, now 20-somethings, grew up with computers, satellite TV, internet, CDs, and cell phones. More on that younger millennial group, grew up with DVDs, TiVo, satellite radio, iPod, smartphones, Facebook, and Twitter. And of course, Gen Z, everything that's happening right now from Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, and WhatsApp, Messenger, so many different things. But you can see how you need to understand your target audience, where they came from, what are their behaviors, what did they grow up with, so that you understand where they're coming from. And you'll do a lot of that through your secondary research as well. Okay, so the basis for buy terms used to identify and measure audiences. So we're going to go through some of this information so that you understand the concepts behind different terms of buying and measuring audiences mean. So the word exposure in the advertising world means the number of households that are watching a particular advertisement. Impressions refers to one person's opportunity to be exposed one time to an ad in a specific vehicle. So how many impressions have you had? That's an important number when you're selling media. Circulation refers to the number of copies that are sold. So that's in the magazine and newspaper world. So these are all measurements that you want to know if you're working for an ad agency, working for your client, and you decide to use a particular media. You want to know how much exposure, what are the impressions, what's the circulation. Let's get into that a little more. Okay, so the basis of the buy, gross impressions, the estimate of the total impressions across a publication's total circulation. Ratings, we know this in television, a measure that converts gross impressions to the percentage of households. And market share refers to the percent of viewers based on the number of sets turned on. Okay, clearly this is for television. Reach and frequency. Reach is a percentage of the media audience that has been exposed at least once to the message during a specific time frame. So think about reaching out with your arm. Okay, what's the reach that you're going to get? Frequency, we know, is just the number of times we're exposed to an ad. Okay, so the ratio here, or the formula, if you will, is that you must hear or see an ad 3 times for impact. So when you're creating your ad and you decide to use 2 different medium, okay, Think about your audience. So if you're a baby boomer audience and you view something in a magazine, and then you see it again on television, and then you see it again maybe in a Facebook ad. Okay, so the message needs to be consistent along three media because you're trying to impact the buyer so that they remember the ad, they purchase the product or the service, whatever it is, or the awareness gets across to the customer. Okay, the basis of the buy continued. Intrusiveness, this word, equals the ability of a medium to grab attention by being disruptive or unexpected. So think about that. So how many times have you seen a medium that really gets your attention, clears through all that clutter, and it's something that's unexpected and it sticks with you? So the more intrusive the medium, the more it can be personalized, but it's also more expensive. So if a message is too disruptive or irritating, we know that, we look away or we turn the channel, and it might not help build that positive brand. Most intrusive medium is personal selling. Okay, it's also the most expensive. The least intrusive is print media. So changing patterns in media use. So we know now, and we're all guilty of this, including myself, that we use media in lots of different ways. Okay, we have more control over the media that we decide to look at. We do not have to open up an app if we don't want to. We opt in to emails and we decide to do things on our own. So we have the control here. Media-driven lives, and more recent generations spend more time with media of all kinds, and it's intertwined in our lives. And we definitely multitask. We're spending more time with media, but we're also on more mediums all at once. So the example that I have here is this family of even the dog's looking at his phone. But think about how you might be watching television, but you also have your cell phone out and you're checking something on Google. So that's what we're talking. We multitask a lot now with our media, where in the past we really didn't, because quite frankly, a lot of media didn't even exist. When you watch TV, that's what you did. You didn't watch TV plus look at your phone plus check something out at the same time. So we definitely are changing consumers in the way that we consume our media. So there's all kinds of non-traditional media out there, and I had my online class, my original online class, help contribute with their field exercises, finding outdoor media. And you were very creative with it and found some really cool stuff that I'll share with my face-to-face now online class. But there's a lot of places for non-traditional media, and we know that that media gets our attention. And it is places that you're not expecting it. It could be in the movie theater, in a kiosk at the mall, at an airport, okay? It could be in at a college football game. It could be something that's an event sponsorship. It could be a sampling event at a concert. It could be coffee cup sleeves. It could be umbrellas, pizza boxes. So think of all of that as non-traditional media. And as marketing majors, you should constantly be looking at what's going on around you in your environment and how companies are trying to connect with us, even in the smallest of ways. So clients are demanding more unique plans and ideas than ever before because impact and engagement helps to become trendsetters in their respective industries. It's a never done before campaign. Something new and different that engages us is really important. There is product placement. We're going to start with that. So a company pays for verbal or visual brand exposure in entertainment. It's not as intrusive, And the product can be the star, but audiences also can skip ads just like they can when they watch TV ads. So I have a great video here. Please check it out. It's all about where product placement has been added in, whether it's verbally stated or it's something where they show you the product. If you watch the Office reruns, they do a lot of the product placement there with things like Utz potato chips or Tasty Cake or different Greater Philadelphia products. So take a look at this video. It's really funny. I think you'll laugh. But the point even more is that product placement can be effective. But the problem is that what if the product isn't actually noticed? There may not be a match between the product and the movie or its audience. So obviously you want to make sure that if you're going to do this kind of marketing, that it makes sense. Okay. And also sometimes it's inappropriate. So branded entertainment. Okay. Red Bull's very much known for this, from their cliff diving to their Red Bull space jump. Okay, this is called branded media or advertainment. Okay, they take a product, they place it, but there's also some entertainment going on at the same time with the storyline. But they integrate the product within. Smart idea. It's kind of like sponsorship. Okay, search and mobile marketing. Consumers control our information. And how we want to be connected, as I said before. But search marketing, as we know, is for online ads near topics of interest that people search for computers, tablets, or on their smartphones. So we know when we put something in that we're looking for, Google, we find a bunch of different ads for other things. Mobile marketing is location-based marketing and reaching consumers around the store, in a store. Kind of creepy, but if you want to turn off your locations, you can do that as well. But it's a way to connect with the customer right then and there when they're getting ready to purchase. Word of mouth marketing. Okay, so word of mouth marketing used to be literally, hey, let me tell you about something, that kind of word of mouth marketing. But now it's taken on a whole other platform, and that's called viral marketing. And we all know what this is. It's passed on rapidly through networks, through your friends, depending on the platform. Buzz may be taken, may be the key factor in consumer decision making if other people are doing it, for instance. So Popeye's chicken sandwich is a great example. Last semester, when Popeyes came out with their chicken sandwich and they ran out, and there was all this buzz marketing around it. And it's kind of that scarcity mode where, oh, they ran out, now I want one. So please take a look at this YouTube video. It gives you an idea of what went on and how much publicity they got around it. That's called earned media. Okay, when we talked about that in the beginning of this chapter, earned media is that different radio hosts and TV hosts picked this story up, and it was just basically free advertising. Guerrilla marketing. This is that exciting personal experience marketing that gets people connected, uses the power of involvement to create a memorable brand experience. This place-based strategy creates unexpected personal encounters with the brand. I have a great video here for McDonald's, and it was, when you take a look at it, it's basically a interaction with their new coffee drinks that they came out with, and at a bus stop, and you'll see how people connected with this opportunity. So think about that. Think about companies that have, caught you off guard and done something really cool. There's a lot of them out there, and some of them can be very creative. Here is a creative idea here by Reynolds Wrap. It's, you can see what it is here, but it's a way of, this is what we mean by guerrilla marketing, finding something where you weren't expecting to, but it can have a lot of impact because people stop. Oh, I wasn't expecting that. that's there, and now it sticks in our mind. We might even talk about it, that word of mouth marketing. So this is the end of the chapter for chapter 12. We're going to move on to chapter 13. So look for that coming up. Remember, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Now more than ever, I want you to be on task and on track for this class. If you have not already, please schedule your group conference call with me. My online class, my original online class, knows to do this because it's part of their rubric. My new online class does not know that this is something that we're doing, that I always do, but it always helps students to clarify, to understand the expectations, and to set a timeline for yourself. And Q&A is always good to get people to understand where we're going with this project. So please make your appointment with me, and it's a quick 30-minute call, and I think you'll be happy with it. Plus, you have to do it for your rubric because it's worth 5 points.